Welcome back to the Let's Glow Show. It's Amanda Sweet, the Creative Fairy Godmother, and I am joined by the amazing Ber-Henda Williams. And we're gonna do something a little different today because we already got to talking backstage. We're gonna introduce Ber-Henda's title and all that good stuff after this question. But my question for you is, Ber-Henda, what is your thought about creatives, speakers, coaches, bringing content creators, and now we have this like new entity, new role following us around, capturing what we're doing. Like, tell me your thoughts and feelings about that because we had just briefly talked about it. It's something that I'm doing a lot. I hire Dell Wynn all the time. She knows she can't get rid of me. I love having her around and she's capturing the magic. But I'm just curious as a soul coach, as an entrepreneur, as an empathic person, how do you feel about this?
Well, one, I think that it's necessary because I don't. Like, if it's left up to me, I am so in the moment of the event that I totally forget about. I'm surprised I have as many pictures as I do in videos as I do. And I think my sister is like way better at it than me. She's a photographer. She has content space. So maybe because of her background, like she's a little more keyed into it. But I would say that it's essential, especially, if you're looking to get booked, if you want people to kind of get a taste of who you are. There's just something that I think happens organically in those candid moments that you're not able to like zoom out and capture. I remember even for my mother's birthday, her last birthday that we had, here with us before she transitioned. There was this shot. It was so incredible. It was the photographer caught this picture of someone else taking a picture of my mother. And so seeing it through the camera person's lens and then seeing it through the phone lens and then seeing the actual, I mean, it was just, and it was like this beautiful, because she wore pink. It was like this really beautiful, like sepia, like tone. And it's just something that I don't think as an individual we would have been able to capture. And so, as a reluctant brand, I am a person that does not necessarily believe in branding in the traditional sense. I'm more of a soul impression, and we can talk about that later. But to even capture that, I do think that there is a place and space, especially, if you want to be a speaker, you want to have stuff that you can use to create your speaker reel, B-roll footage. And I think that there is something to be said. We know what stock reel footage looks like versus like, your own. And I think once you kind of continue, yeah, exactly, you continue to do it, you eventually have like your own signature is now on it. So you can use that B-roll, for future purposes. If you don't use it for the expressed, event, you have your own images now. You have your own stock photo, you have your own promotional material, and it feels like you. It doesn't feel like something you just bought off the internet, right? It feels very organic, and I think it gives the potential client or audience member a really big preview into your world.
Oh, that's so true. I feel like when working with Dell, I expressed to her before, like I go on stage, I'm like, this is what I want. And she captures something that when I do photography, I call like your mom's favorite smile. It's not the
Mm,
smile that you make when you're posing for a camera. It's not the smile that comes out when you're like, the camera's there. It's the
yeah.
real, like, it's the gums, it's the back of the mouth, it's like the back teeth, it's all of that that like I normally would like shy away from because I'm like, that's too much gums. But like when I see her version of me, the way
Mm,
I pour it, I'm like, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I want. And then she captures that raw energy that I could never do on my own and never participate in if I was like, I also have to capture content now. That whole like being present piece is huge. And that like true authentic, like I did a talk yesterday and there is like a bunch of pictures of me just like it's just like raw, pure positive energy, nothing but like just
yeah.
all smiles. And I'm like, I would have never have this photo if I didn't realize that this is like not my strong suit and that my strength needs to be in the present and in
Hmm.
space and filling it up.
That's it.
Oh, okay, BerHenda, tell everybody all of the beautiful things you do
Oh my goodness.
in the community and beyond.
Well, so namely, my most current project is the Culture Shifters Unite. I call it an ecosystem because I love hearing that people within the community are getting hired, they're making relationships. I love hearing the word friend. I mean, as an adult, it can be a little difficult meeting new people and actually making friends. To be in the space, that the word that gets used often is like-minded women. And I think that the Culture Shifters ecosystem community is unique because it's not about what you do, it's about who you are. We want to connect on a more soulful level. And it convenes, once a quarter at Bamboo and Royal Oak. And when we go offline, we do have a membership community that's available for people to join if you're looking to not only expand your network but expand your identity, expand who you are. You
Mm,
find yourself that you're either in a leadership position, you're a founder, you're an entrepreneur, you're someone who feels deeply into the world and wants to see um, a better version of yourself, but also to see humanity evolve. And I know
mm,
that many of us were really rocked most recently yesterday. Marcellus Williams was unfortunately um, wrongfully executed. And I think that when we look at our judicial system, when we look at all of the ills that exist in our community, I do see a huge movement of women and those who are female identified really taking up the mantle for social change,
mm,
really convening and organizing. And per usual, we're seeing, even with our current presidential elections, we're seeing women and particularly Black women organizing and petitioning and making phone calls and holding circles and holding spaces to, help us to save the democracy. So I think that it's important that, in terms of the culture shifters community, we also have a podcast, Soul of a Lead Her, where we have these really candid conversations. And I love that the vulnerability and honesty that's just shared with effort and ease, and it's not, cajoled. I'm
mm,
really blessed and I feel really honored that people are trusting the space, they're trusting the community to share what they need, to share maybe what they're afraid of, to talk about their feelings in an open forum. I think that that's something not to be taken lightly. And I continue to, stay I'm doing my best to stay present because I can just kind of get in awe of like, wow, this is something that I've been ideating on for a couple of years, and to see it come to pass, to see it, come into fruition, it's really remarkable and it's really powerful to see. So that's just a few of the things that I have moving. And then when I'm not doing that, I'm teaching Afro-Cuban dance. And when I'm not doing that, yes, I teach Afro-Cuban dance.
what?
Yeah, yeah, that's a thing. Yeah. I'm teaching Afro-Cuban dance at Sasha Lane. So shout out to the Sasha Center. Yes, they're an organization that helps those who are surviving sexual assault, particularly those who are in Black bodies. And I mean, anyone and all people are welcome to do the to do Afro-Cuban dance, but it's called Healing Through Movement.
Mm,
Mm. So
dude,
whatever it is that you're, you know, traversing through, anything that you are wanting to, have healed, there's something sacred because we actually do have a live drummer that
mm,
drums with us. Yes, live drumming does happen.
amazing.
And it's really powerful, to hear the vibration in the space and how it just permeates everything and it just kind of moves through your body.
Mm,
And it's free and it's flowy, and yes, it is free. And when I'm not, like I said, when I'm not doing that, I am a poet. I enjoy spoken word poetry and sharing my gifts that way.
mm. So many good juicy things.
Thank
Okay, I
you.
have to know,
Yeah.
how do you curate a space for so many amazing humans to come together to build this ecosystem? How do you how do you create vulnerable space for people. Like for those of us out there, I have a lot of people in my ecosystem that are wanting to build their own communities and they're wanting to create space for people. And so as an empathic person, how do you
Mm.
develop that? And also how do you protect yourself?
So I'm gonna say heal. Healing is such a huge gift. Recently, I had a seasonal planning session, so I convened with a dozen female identified empathic entrepreneurs. And we really sat in the energy of fall, which I think is super important to do with all of the seasons, is just look at what the energy is suggesting and move with the energy of the season. And so to answer your question, how do you curate the space and keep yourself safe? It's really healing. We talked about EMDR, which is a particular type of like light therapy. There are people who are certified to do it. So I definitely would say if your therapist is not certified to do it, look into even maybe pairing with who you currently have. I would never tell anyone to leave their provider, but at least have a conversation
Yeah.
with them about it, because what we want to attempt to do is many times we'll create what we see absent,
Mm.
and many times we create, or when we go from our mess to ministry, so we take our pain, our hurt, our longings, and we create the thing that we wish existed. And I think that's a beautiful way to alchemize, any situation, right? Alchemy is just, oh, it's I think super important, and it's a key to healing. And I don't believe that as a feminine that we heal in isolation.
Oh,
Yeah, so that part. But secondly, I think that it's also to be cognizant of too when we're overextending, hyperextending. Um, Triggers can come up. I mean, it's very easy, to do, and especially like as you heard, the spaces that I'm in, we're talking about sexual assault, and we're also talking about systemic oppression, and so we're talking about all of the things, right? So it can bring up. So I
yeah.
think that prioritizing your healing, prioritizing your self care. Um, the day after the event, I made sure there was nothing else on my calendar, because it does take a lot of bandwidth. It does take a lot of energy to produce an event, but also hold sacred space for people. And I
Mhm.
think the unique thing about Culture Shifters is that it's intentionally intimate. We don't exceed 30 people because we want people to feel like you're walking away knowing someone. You're walking away with a real connection, and you're walking away feeling supported.
Yeah. Ooh, I heard recently someone say, I wish there were more intimate events because everybody wants to go big, but I just want to be around like 15 people or less. And I was
Yeah.
like, we need to help you create that because I get it. We want a big bang, the social media piece, we want the perspective, the to look and feel huge, but I love the angle of intimacy and the
Mhm.
piece about like you expelling your energy. As the director of Bamboo, I take that position I'm very proud of it. I'm very excited about it. Like being able to sit there and people come up to me and I'm their person for the day. Like they walk up and ask me questions like, what would you do if you're in my situation? Oh my gosh, I have this thing going on. And being able to be present and there for them. Like I try to explain to friends, I'm like, I leave work feeling like ringed out because there's so many people. And so how if you were in my physical shoes, how would you
Mhm.
go about like if you're empathic person, you're constantly surrounded by people, you're constantly creating space. You mentioned self-care. What does self-care look like for you or iterations for people that you
Mhm.
coach?
So, that is so interesting. I love that you asked that question, because quite literally yesterday I had a client, and we actually moved more into an intuitively guided session. So it wasn't necessarily about her business, but it was to help her get grounded in herself, because wherever you go, or try to run, you're going to open the door for yourself.
Yeah.
So what does it look like to look at your energetics,
Mm,
particularly as an empathic person? You want to help people, but then also people can be draining. So I would say take frequent breaks, if you as many breaks as you can. The beautiful thing about a space like Bamboo, it's easy to get outside. You have, I mean, all of this natural light that pours in. I don't think that we get enough particularly in our region, enough sunlight. And so when we're vitamin D deficient, it can cause seasonal affect disorder, which is also known as SAD.
Mm.
So making sure that you're getting sun, taking breaks, water, keep hydrated because it also, helps to support a healthy energetics. And I would definitely also say, how do you start your day? And I
Mm.
believe that many of us want to start our days with technology, and that first 20
Mm.
minutes, you're coming out of a rested state, and your subconscious is very vulnerable in that state. So it's a great place to meditate,
Mm.
to pray, to vision. I think visioning doesn't get enough amplification. Prayer, yes. Meditation is now, but visualization, yes. So
Mm.
seeing your day um in the way that lights you up, in a day that excites you, because I mean I really feel like what you do, Amanda, and just the whole Bamboo team, you all essentially are a ministry of sorts. I mean, because ministry to me is the way I heard it defined was so beautiful. It's any place that love is. I know, right?
Oh, that's
Any
so
place
why
that
that hit me like right here. I'm like, oh,
any place that love is. And
oh,
we may not think about empathy and compassion and those sort of things in a context of business, but as a culture shifter, my calling, my mandate, I feel, is to do business differently. Business is not just transactional. And in a space like Bamboo, business is not transactional, it's communal. It's mutually beneficial. It's supportive. It's about checking in about, how is your spirit doing? How's your heart? I know that you recently, maybe lost a loved one, or there was a transition, or, maybe there was a divorce. Maybe there are other things that were big in your life that also impact how you show up and how you want to show up. So
yeah,
checking in with the heart and checking in with people and checking in with who they are as human beings first, I think goes further than any business deal or transaction. And I feel that love, that's the real currency that we want to be delving into, and not just cash and dollars, or credits and debits and that sort of thing. And don't get me wrong, I mean we want to make sure that our businesses are sustainable. We want to make sure, right, that we're viable. But at the
yeah.
same time, we think that vitality is also predicated on how we take care of ourselves.
Mm. Mm. That's also juicy. Okay. Okay. You said so many things. That love piece, like ministry is where love is. That is like, oh, that's in my soul now. She's gonna just live there, and I'm just gonna like
Mhm.
allow that. That was really, really beautiful. And yes, like I so feel that there's this like negative connotation around business. And I say this all the time. I'm like, good people do good business. Like it doesn't have to be bad business, and us like fulfilling our dreams and working on our crafts and leaning into our genius is we're turning it into business, but it's a soul driven desire that's
Mhm.
coming straight from source. Like
That's right.
yesterday at the session, I like there was a couple people that pulled me to the side. It was a women's event. And they were like, "Where do you get your energy from? Like where?" And I was like, this is what I live for. Like I
Mhm.
love this. I love being in front of people, sharing with people, creating space for people, with people. And one person made like a side comment, and I know that had nothing to do with me and more to do with them, but they were like, "So what are you taking?" And I was like, "Life." I was like, "This is." I was like, "You want to know what the formula is? The formula is good people, great
Yeah.
rest, good food, and a little bit of yoga and caffeine in the morning. But this is pure positive energy, girlfriend." I was like, "This is not fake." And they're like, "Oh," and it was like one of those moments where I had to like check myself. I was like,
Sure.
Was that a dig? Was that a dig?
You
I was
were
like, it like,
And because I think I know what event you're referring to, I will say this, and this is really, really important.
yeah,
We still are in a space that the feminine is not celebrated. Even in the feminine, it can
the truth.
still be in business very male identified.
Yes, yes, yes.
And I get it,
Mm-hmm.
particularly if, you're in a certain season of life, perhaps when you were moving through college and you were moving through your first business deals, you know, wearing expressive colors was frowned upon. Being too feminine could bring unwanted advances in
Yeah.
attention.
Oh yeah.
And you have to position yourself to be taken seriously, in the business world. Because let's just be honest, the business world is still dominated by middle-aged white men.
Mm-hmm.
And regardless to what your race or orientation is, when you are entering into that space and that is not how you identify as a middle-aged white male, it it will besmirch, it will tear down
Mm-hmm.
anything that's not like itself. So you coming in yourself, bright, happy, cheery,
Yeah.
still in the business world, they're not accustomed to that level of freedom and femininity and personality. But here's the beautiful thing. They've been introduced now. You
Yeah.
can be just as free. You don't have to be one version of yourself. And I'll use the I statement here. I used to think I had to be different versions of myself depending on the audience or the place that I was in, because I do traverse so many circles. I mean, I'm not a politician, but I am in political spaces. I wouldn't necessarily call myself an activist, but I am in social justice spaces.
Yes.
I'm an artist. And so I'm in artistic spaces, I'm in creative spaces, and I'm an entrepreneur. So I'm also in business and founder spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And so I didn't think initially that all of me could fit in all the spaces, but it's too much effort to try and shrink and cut down and mitigate, or silence, the
Mm-hmm.
very essence of who I am. And I am feminine, and I'm a feminine woman, and I don't apologize, for that. And so you put the world on notice, you put that person on notice, and you gave them permission to maybe explore places that they've repressed themselves, or explore places where they can tap into a wellspring of energy. And I love that you name source. I mean, that's one of my favorite names for God is source, spirit, universe, whatever name you want to put on it, because quite honestly, it's beyond what
Yeah.
as humans we can even dare to conceive, right? So
Yeah.
it's so cute. It's the all. I sometimes even call it like the all there is. And
Oh, that's all there
right,
is. That.
right. So I'm like, all there is, who lives in and rests and rules in me, help me to, whatever the thing is that I want to execute, amplify. Because at the end of the day, it's really not even about us. I mean, it's not even about the solo individual. It's about
Mm-mm.
the mission. And so the work that you do with the revamp, the work that you do as the community director, the work that you do speaking, it's its own form of ministry, because wherever you go, love goes. And love will open the door for you. And love is opening doors for you.
It is.
And so as you continue to walk in that love that you are, and walk in that peace and creativity that you are. And it's something interesting that you said, that you were looking for the very thing that you're becoming. And that's so true. When we pursue the thing, right, that we desire, when we pursue it, however it shows up,
Mm.
it's always going to point you back to inside yourself. The very thing that you are looking for is looking for you. The
Mm.
very thing that you want to be, do, or have is already inside you. A seedling, an acorn, doesn't ask to be more of a tree. The tree is
Mm.
inside the acorn, but it needs fertile soil and it needs time. It has to have the right environment to grow. And so, just like you are emerging our creative fairy godmother, you had to put yourself in the ground. And there may have been seasons where you felt like you were buried, but listen, baby girl, you were planted, okay? And
Ah,
it needed to take time to cultivate and to grow. It needed the right environment. And sometimes the right environment means that you have to uproot yourself, when you kind of got the roots and it's like, no, but I like it here. No, but baby, it's time to move. You've got to grow someplace else.
yeah. Yeah. Mm.
That whole part. So look, don't get me over here to preaching now.
You're preaching so hard. Everything, like, because there's so much to that. There's so many layers. Like, yesterday was amazing. It was wonderful. And I feel for the person that said that to me, because I knew where it was coming from. It was coming from a place of limit. It was coming from a place of capacity. And if they were in their whole space, they would have said it differently. And I
Sure.
know that. And I caught myself, and it's interesting because there's so many spaces. Like, I used to think I had to be a chameleon, just like you, because I was
Mhm.
in business space. I was like, I was a student. I was like launching programs. I was doing all the art stuff. Like, and I was like, I'm a chameleon. I like own that. I was like, I could just be in any space and
That's
be
right.
anyone for any space. But that's not what, eh, for so long, I was like, oh, people in Detroit don't respect me, but I've been here for so long. And I left, poured into myself. I'm like, who do I want to be? Before I even met the first person when I moved to Texas, I was like, who am I? It took a
Mhm.
lot. Like, I remember my husband, Labrie, was like, are you okay? And I was like, I'm doing great. Like, I'm taking my time because he's used to me being outside, talking to people, like just, doing my thing. And he was like, are you happy here? And I'm like, I'm very happy. I'm figuring it out.
Figuring
And the
it out.
last thing that I want to do is go outside and find myself in a burnout state, not who I want to be,
Mhm.
overextending myself in spaces that don't feel good, and not able to like protect myself and create boundaries. Cause that was a big problem. I was like, why do people not respect me here? Oh, it's because anything anybody wants, they get. I show up however they want me to. I
Yeah.
bend to their whim. I'm as small as they need me to be. Right. Like, that's not who I am. That's not who I was, but that's who I was being for the
Mhm.
opportunity, for the
Mm.
past, you
Yeah.
know. And as a woman in the creative space in Detroit, I
Yeah.
found speaking to a lot of men, and I felt this was before I even met my husband. I was like, oh, if I'm a businesswoman in the art scene, I have to first make them feel attracted to me in order for them to talk to me. It's like a bait and switch. Okay, you think I'm cute? Now let's talk about this venue fee, right?
Yeah.
That was the way I was operating because that is what I was taught. Like, oh, you have to be, you're a curvaceous woman. Use that to your advantage.
Yeah.
Like, well, this has got a lot of curves too. And
Yeah.
that's really sexy to me.
And that's really the sexiest part about you is your brain, is the way you think, is your mind, is your intellect, is your way to strategize, the way that you connect, the way that you're able to convene. I mean, that's really your best asset.
Oh
And
yeah.
it's beautiful that you took the time to go within, and that you took the time to, really pour into self. And this is the work, for all of us, is to undo patterns of thinking, because our thoughts create things. And so if we want to create a different reality, you have to feed, especially, that's why I said, waking up in the morning, that subconscious mind. You really have to be so careful about what it is that you're feeding it.
Mhm.
And it's like the story of the grandfather that's talking to his son about the wolf of I believe it's love and fear. And he's like, well, which one to be stronger? And he's like, whichever one you feed. The
Mm.
one you feed the most is the one that's going to be the strongest. And so we have to feed our love, our faith, more than we're feeding the fear. And I mean, of course, you're human, and you want to negotiate deals. And the men in our community, I also think, are in many ways indirectly learning from us. We set the tone.
Yes.
We
Yes.
set the bar.
It's
Yeah.
it's like I remember somebody asked me where I got Creative Fairy Godmother from, and I was like, I got gifted that name. That wasn't a name I found. That was a name that was gifted upon me. But that was when I was in my genius. That was in Texas. These people had known me for 6 months, but I was operating in whole self. And it was the guys. The guys were like, you're like a Creative Fairy Godmother. And I was like, yes, I
Yeah.
am. Yes, I am. And also, like, you guys get to be better because you get to learn from everything that I've learned already, But that, like, setting the tone and creating space, and the statement of like, I felt like I had to act that way because of men being managers of venues or whatever the case may be, that was pressed upon me by women. That was, like, that was not necessarily what the men were saying. But what the women were telling me was like, oh, but they only talk to skinny girls, or but they only hire da 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 da. They only do XYZ with this kind of girl or that kind of girl. And
Mhm.
I've never been that kind of girl, and no shade to that girl, but I'm not her. I'm not a size 00. I've never been that. I've never been blonde. You know what I mean? So it's an interesting dynamic that I think as people who lead with love and lead with the ministry of like belonging and inclusivity is
Yeah.
saying like, hey, girl that gave me that advice, let's just sit and talk about that. Like, where did that come from? Who told you that? Because I know who told me that, my 4th grade science teacher. And she was like, you're the problem with the way men are looking at you, and you need to cover up, and you need to hide your body, and you need to do X, Y, and Z. Because what they do and how they act is your responsibility and your fault, right?
Yeah.
She got taught that. She got taught. I get to be like, no, we're not doing that no more.
No, we're not. And we actually do our men and boys a disservice when we don't check behavior, and particularly when other men don't check behavior that that actually commodifies women or objectifies them. And so that behavior has to be corrected. That is a course corrective activity. She is not here for your consumption. She is a whole human and, deserves respect. And it's just so interesting when we still see to this day, women who have agency, who take their femininity, but also are in leadership positions, when they exert themselves or, have a complaint, then, they're called out of their names. They're called, really horrible things, nasty women, for example. Right. And I think, again, it's steeped into our culture to behave this way. And so this is where our work is, to shift the culture, and we shift with one person, one conversation. And this is where intimacy, I think, in the case of healing and transformation and social change, happens in smaller venues. Even the civil rights movement, as we saw it, I mean, we see, Dr. King overlooking the mall in this really just kind of huge episode in history, and we see all of these people, but it didn't start that way. It started as a very small nucleus, a very small kitchen table conversation around, ending the Jim Crow era, in the South. And we see, apartheid regimes, still all over the world. But it happens when a committed few commit wholeheartedly, and from that commitment, inspire others. And again, it's one conversation at a time, one person, one soul at a time, one heart that changes. Because if we really want to change a belief system, the way people behave, we have to start with the heart.
That one person at a time thing, that's like, that is how I operate. My mission statement is to help people get fly, make friends, and save the world. And you can make fly, like help people get fly means a lot of things to me.
Sure.
From the outside, it's like, okay, like look cute, but I'm trying to help soar, right? We are claiming our identity, and we're soaring, and we're flying with it, right? And the make friends piece is so like pivotal to changing the world. But it's one friendship, like you said, it's one. I had a coach before, and he's like, "What is your goal?" I was like, "I want to change the world." He's like, "You're not going to be able to change the world," and I was like, "I'm going to have to let you go." And I like, here's the reason why. I appreciate you. Thank you for everything that you taught me. And the biggest lesson that you taught me in this whole experience is that I know I'm capable of this, and no authority is going to tell me I'm not. And I had to justify it. And he was like, well, let's break it down. Let's talk about it. He was like, you're not going to save the literal example was, you're not going to save the hunger problem in Africa. I was like, I hear you. I hear where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Valid point. I may not be able to do that, but I may inspire someone else who inspires someone else, who starts a collective, who starts a business, who then, you know what I mean? Like, and then that will change the world. Like my ripple could do anything. It could do anything. And the fact that the ripple exists changes the world. My existence has already done that. Your existence has already changed the world. You just being on the planet has changed the world forever for better.
Absolutely. And I think that, to have that audacity to let a coach go means that you changed your inner world first. You saw yourself as capable, and you saw yourself executing the mission. And, that's really, good on you. A lot of us buy into the words and projections of other people. And I think that that keeps us from the growth, that keeps us stymied when we're listening to people that didn't get our assignment. And so you didn't get my assignment. So of course you don't understand it. And when we look at change agents, and when we look at what's unfolding, in the world, from Tigray to Gaza to, right here in our own backyard, right here in Detroit, we have literacy deficits, and we have hunger, and, we have so much, that has to be contended with here. I think that convening community around that helps you keep the vision and keep the fire stoked. And actually, I met some amazing at the Bamboo Biz Bash.
Yeah.
I mean, so it was like I guess, the afterglow of my talk around empathic leadership. And it was amazing to see a room filled with people who really want to put empathy at the forefront, who also identify as highly sensitive, empathic people. It's like, who knew that so many, empaths, existed, because we're only like 2% of the population. And it was just beautiful to see all genders, all races, all orientations present, and having real conversations about our world and creating a more just world for everyone. And so, just even making mention of October 7th, I know can make some people bristle, but I think that having the opportunity to, like you said, you're not going to be able to, you're not going to be able to end hunger in Africa. Well, we may not be able to send peace in all the places that are war torn, but I do know this. There was I think it was called the Maharishi experiment, where in an area of a high crime area, they sent some monks to meditate, and within a couple of months, the crime in the area started to, because they were all holding an intention. They were all meditating. They were all holding a place for, and so their presence shifted the atmosphere. So yes, maybe one person will not, quote unquote, save the world, but I do know that one person can create a new one.
Mm. Mm. You preaching today, Miranda. You
I mean,
the
I'm here
gem.
always.
Oh my goodness, it's beautiful. Like it just, I'm really grateful for you. I'm really
Same.
thankful for you.
Same.
We have about 15 minutes left. I am curious about how your last event went. It was this past weekend. When is your next one? How are
Ooh.
you shaping it so that it can be the next iteration of what was and become what is?
Oh, wow. So we've got some exciting events coming up this fall with Bamboo and Arbor. And then, of course, this winter we'll close out the season at Bamboo Royal Oak. And so I've had some conversations with a mental health professional in Georgia who's interested. Yeah. So it's kind of in the beginning stages of having some conversations around um, being an entrepreneur in mental health, and how do we, how do we navigate, through that.
Mm.
And the launch of the membership is happening. I have a 12-month program, for those who are female identified empathic entrepreneurs, that is on its way as well. And
Mm.
the event, was so intimate, and that's what I kept hearing, is that people were saying, like, I liked the intimacy. I really liked that it was not a large group of people. And this was in collaboration with Teen Hype. And I think that's the other piece too, is that it's super important for us to be in collaboration and in solidarity with people who don't necessarily look or think or believe like us. But I think at the core of our humanity, I think there's something on a soul level that really does connect us. And
Mm.
I think that when we can look through, and I love this Audre Lorde quote, she says that I'm not free while another woman is unfree, even if her shackles are different than my own.
Mm.
I know that just that kind of really does just do something on the inside of you. So I would say that the healing circle is something that we definitely would like to do more of. And so anyone who is listening to this under the sound of my voice, if you want to get involved, if you'd like to become a sponsor of
Please,
Culture Shifters, please, because this event is so transformative. And like I said, they always, I even had someone say to me, when I came to your event, I didn't really want to be there. I was in a mood. She was in a way. And she said by the time she left, and the person that invited her didn't even show up.
mm,
So now I'm here by myself and nobody I know. I'm in a
yeah,
bad mood.
yeah.
But she said just the energy in the space, just I had to open up. And she opened up and said, you know what? I'm really glad that I came.
Mm. BerHenda, I'm curious, what does the future of empathic leadership look like to you?
Mm, it looks like more safe and vulnerable spaces. It looks like marrying a social impact mission, even in the for-profit
Mm.
arena, because nonprofits cannot do all of the work. I mean, it's too big, it's too massive, and we can't just put band-aids. We want to, heal and actually really create a new system. So I feel that empathic leadership
Mm.
is going to take into consideration a triple bottom line where it's people, purpose, and profit. And so when we have a triple bottom line, I think that we move together in a unison, in a more harmonious way.
Mm.
And so I feel that the future is lending itself, and we're just seeing such an express need right now for us to really, 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 really come into a deeper awareness and understanding of what it means to be human, what it
Mhm.
means to be divine, because we're that too, but also looking out for the best interests of the collective. How do we heal our collective consciousness? And I do believe that it is through empathy and compassion.
Mm. And you're seeing, like, we see it now, and I really applaud our Gen Z community for speaking up, our millennials for not taking the work culture, the work life culture as at face value. We're like, this is not working for us. And
That's
we're
right.
seeing the conversation in corporate spaces change, like about work life harmony and what are your people feeling? And let's do more one on ones, more team outings, more of this because we want our people to be happy. I think that is a good first step. But I think a greater next step will look like, what does happiness mean to the individual? How do we not blanket statement that for a whole company of thousands of people? Because that looks different for everyone. And
Mhm.
sometimes happiness is justice. Sometimes happiness is more rest. Sometimes happiness is XYZ. And so I do see, I like the triple bottom line visual because I'm seeing the dots of the people line
Mhm.
coming, and I'm seeing the dots of the purpose line coming because like our younger generation are the people that are gonna succeed us are like, we're not we're not putting up with this shit. You're not gonna just have this huge organization that does nothing for us,
That's
you
right.
know? And
And that's
so
nothing for community. I mean, let's just keep it really honest. A lot of corporations exist, not too far from communities that are in peril and in devastation. And so how do you get in your vehicle and go back to the safety and security of your own community and just completely bypassing the needs of another? And if you are in the populace, or you're in the majority that has the power, then it's very easy for you to bypass and not see. But this is where I believe that the empath comes in. You feel it. You feel the sadness, you feel the grief, you feel the despair.
Mm.
And this is the best definition. I took a care and compassion course through Stanford University, and I thought that this definition was so, so good. And the definition that they came up with for compassion is the witnessing of the suffering of another and the willingness to do something about it.
Mm. Mm. For those of us that haven't figured out what our something about it is, what do you suggest we do? How do we get started? How do we get started in changing the world or leading with empathy? Like where, if we're starting at zero, which nobody is ever starting at zero, but where would the jumping point in your mind be?
Start your day every day with gratitude and this question: what is mine to do today? Because you're right, we all have a role to play in it.
Yeah.
And if you're listening to this podcast and you're listening to this conversation, you're more than likely a doer. And maybe you want to do something, maybe you feel like you can do more. And
Mhm.
of course, there's always more to do, but ask what is yours. Because what my ministry is going to be different from yours. Like yours is, supporting, with clothing and fashion. And so that's the way that you approach it. For someone else, it may be recycling. For someone else, it may be racial reconciliation. I love that Bamboo has an affinity group for the LGBTQI plus community.
Mhm.
So sort of supporting entrepreneurship in that area, because obviously that's going to look different than maybe your traditional entrepreneur. There may be some barriers that exist there that don't exist for other groups and other identities. So I think that it's super important. And then, of course, even within that, there's intersections, right? Because we do have to also factor in race and ability. And I love that the conversation is moving now around neurodivergence, people that are not neurotypical. So again, there's so many places to, as they say, get in where you fit in. But I
Yeah.
think asking that question of what is mine to do today
Mhm.
will help you move into a place and space of doing what is yours to do.
I like the what is mine to do. So I feel like there was a space in my life where I was doing everybody's like unbeknownst to them. Like I
Mhm.
got to do all of this stuff. Nobody asked me to do it, but I took responsibility for all of these things, other people's well-being, other people's projects, just inserted myself because I know what I'm doing, That was
Mhm.
the younger, more like the version of me that wanted to demand respect instead of
Yeah,
right?
right.
Um, build it through trust and experience and time and patience, And so I love this. What is on my ministry to do list, I think is what I'm going to say, because I know it's on my to do list and my mind went work, right? My mind
Yeah,
went like admin. I got to do admin stuff because I'm an entrepreneur now, It's like, oh, I got to do that. I got to do this. But
yeah.
I think I need to lean into the what is my
What is
ministry.
mine to do? Yep, I love that. However want to frame it, I think that that's super important.
Yeah. And usually it's like finding magic all the time.
Yeah.
Like how, and to me, magic is presence and just
Yes.
being, because that's where the magic happens. Like we're just here, we're experiencing together, both feet on the ground.
Both
Like
feet on the
what,
ground.
what what's going through you, what's going through me, and what's becoming of this moment together. Something that
Mhm,
would never happen on our own.
mhm.
So Brand, I'm so grateful for you. This just
Dang.
flew by.
Yeah.
Flew by. Okay, so I know we briefly chatted about where people like what you got coming down, but where can people find you?
BerHendaWilliams.com is the best place to find me. It'll link to all my social medias. I'm the only BerHenda in the world, so BerHenda on Instagram, BerHenda on LinkedIn. Actually, BerHenda Williams, BerHenda Williams on everything. BerHenda Williams on LinkedIn, BerHenda Williams on Instagram, BerHenda Williams on Facebook. We have a Culture Shifters uh, Facebook page, and we also have a channel on Instagram. So if you want to join, it's free. You want to join the channel for a conversation, just, at me on Instagram, and you can join the Culture Shifters community there. It's so funny. I didn't really put a lot into it, and I started out with 2 people, and I think with like really no effort on my part, we've grown to already, I believe, like 36 people. And so I'm sure once this comes out, it'll grow, to expand to even more. But we have, thoughtful conversations in there. We talk about what it means to be a culture shifter. We keep people up to date with news and events. But I think that it's also super important to, start the day with grounding and shielding. As an empath, what are things to do to help fortify your energy. And then, like I said, knowing what is yours to do.
I love it. Y'all should definitely go check her out on all of the platforms. I'm excited to see this channel.
Yeah.
Before
I'll
we
send you an
go,
invitation. Yeah.
please do, because
Yeah.
I need all the juicy good moments that I can
Absolutely.
get, especially when I'm online. It's like curating that experience to just be really magical.
Mhm.
Before we go, what's your
Yeah.
last piece of advice for the person listening now?
Mm. What's my last piece of advice? Let me see. What am I growing through at the moment? Mm. You are here for a finite amount of time on this earth. And wherever you are on the spiritual spectrum, some people believe in reincarnation and that you come back. But in this one life that you get everything out of it. I mean, get every morsel of goodness and love out of this one wondrous life that we are living, and be a good steward of what you have, and understand that legacies are also while you're living. So whatever it is that you want to leave behind that will be enduring, think of your life that way. What is the legacy that you want to leave this earth? What do you want people to say, in terms of the final words about you? And then live life from that perspective. Live life that way. The obituary being read. What do you want people to say?
I love that. Legacies for Life. I think that might be the title of the show. Legacies for the living. I mean, you're doing it. You're living it right now.
You're doing it right.
Every day. And legacy lives like when you leave the room.
It
That could
does.
be too.
That is so true. So
No,
very true. Yeah.
love that. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love
Yeah.
you and I appreciate you so, so much.
That's
Thank
same.
you for being here, for being you, for doing this the second time around. Y'all don't know, but this is our take 2.
Take two.
And it was beautiful. It was everything. It was everything. So I really, really appreciate your time, second time around, and for all of the work that you're doing, BerHenda. Just keep it up. I'm so proud of you.
Thank
Like
you.
such inspiration. Keep it going. Keep it going.
Well, no, I
And
appreciate you. Thank you.
thank you so much. And for all of you that are listening and hanging out with us, thank you. We appreciate you. I'm proud of you too. I'm sure if you're listening to this, you're doing all kinds of awesome stuff. So keep it going, stay the course, fall in love
Mhm.
with yourself, fall in love with the moment. I love you all so much. One brief announcement. The month of October, Labrie is taking over Ideation Orange. So he's curating all of the art. He's reached out to 16 different Detroit artists to fill up that space. We're going to be doing a beautiful grand opening day party on October 5th. Ideation Orange is in Hazel Park. So from like 1 to 4, we'll be in there. We'll be talking to the artists. We'll be introducing them to the community. And then the last Saturday of October, we're doing a monochromatic masquerade party. And everybody's invited. Part of the proceeds are going to be going to the Live Outreach, which is Malika Williams' nonprofit. We're going to send money for her toiletry drive. It's going to be great. It's going to be beautiful. If you dress up in monochromatic, you'll become a part of the installation. There's going to be like visuals and art and music and dancing, and it's going to be really, really beautiful. And then we get to party with purpose because we get to help the Live Outreach out. So if you don't have any Halloween plans, you do now. And if you're looking to meet other artists, please come. But they're monochromatic masquerade.
Okay. I love it.
There's like a bunch of VJs that are going to be there. There's a huge group of growing, like a community of VJs who are visual DJs.
I love it.
If you're head to toe monochromatic, you get to be a projection screen, which we love. Very cool. So again, thank you for being here, BerHenda. Thank you for being here, our amazing, amazing listeners. We love you so much. Every week we talk to a beautiful, life-changing, world-altering, creative entrepreneur, and we will see you next Wednesday on the Let's Glow Show. Bye.
I love it. Bye.